Hey guys, back to continue this build. I have the front and rear clips added to the chassis. So we're going to go ahead, since the clips are on the chassis, and before we continue building up everything and adding everything else to it, we're going to go ahead and get the diffs, the front and rear diffs, put in and shim them up and everything. So I do have another diff shimming video on my YouTube channel, I know. But since I'm doing the whole car build, I'm gonna go ahead and do it again. And because I know it's something that is commonly asked and something that's commonly something that's difficult for people to learn. So I'm going to cover it again. So we'll start with the rear diff. I'll get this thing popped in here. Make sure the shims are lined up. Okay. Okay. So try to show this the best as possible. It's going to be hard to do. So when you're shimming your diff, the shims that go on the outsides of the bearing is to remove the play that the diff has side to side. You don't want the diff to have any movement back and forth side to side. So you add as many shims as it can handle, so that all that side-to-side movement has been removed. Okay, and then when it comes to whether you need shims on this side or you need shims on this side, that's to control the gear mesh itself and how loose or tight you want the mesh. So ultimately you want the diff to have no movement, and you want to hold the pinion itself from being able to move. So hold the pinion itself, and then you just take and you rock this gear back and forth to judge how much play is in the actual gear. So with that being brand new, that's a little bit more play than I would like. So I'm going to add another shim to the gear side and then test that. Okay. So I was able to get 4 shims in the cup without it causing any additional bind to the gear, and with 2 shims on that side, 2 shims on that side, I still have just that little click in the gears, which is about the perfect amount. When you bolt the case on, it will tighten it just a tiny bit more. So with the case, the cover off, that little click back and forth, that's about the right amount of play that you're looking for. So with all that, we'll put some grease on those teeth and we'll slap that cover on real quick. you just want to check and make sure your gear is nice and smooth, which it is. We'll go ahead and button this on up. I use that same Lucas Oil white lithium grease that I was using earlier. That's what I use on my ring and pinions as well. It's awesome. It doesn't sling off or burn away. And I've ran my car for a whole day or 2 or 3 of running and come to take my car back apart to do a rebuild, and there's still grease still in these teeth and still on these gears. So that's incredible. So hard to find grease that you can get that out of. Yeah, so I just do a full nice coating all the way through the entire gear. And then we will attach the gearbox cover. Same, you just want to make sure that you put it on nice and straight, and that the shims are all seated in the bearings and they didn't get crunched in there. So once you put the cover on, it's on all the way. Make sure you spin and see how free this is. And then once you actually screw the case down, you want to spin it again to see how tight it got as well. See if it's changed. Like so, and then I spin that, and it feels absolutely perfect. It's super smooth, no crunch in the gears, no any kind of resistance, and then no resistance whatsoever in that drivetrain. So that's the absolute perfect shimming, and exactly what you're looking for out of your drivetrain. That's going to be the most super efficient, best performing drivetrain you can get out of the car right there. So also with when it comes to the diff shimming, it changes as you run your car. So don't think that you build it to this spec and you just leave it there. This is an ever-changing maintenance, preventive maintenance part. As those gears wear, you're going to have to change how they're shimmed, etc., etc. Maybe the case wears some. You might have to add a shim, take a shim out. All that stuff can happen. So for the most part, the shimming doesn't change a ton. It's possible that after the break-in of the gears, you might have to move one shim over to the gear side, tighten it up just a little bit, and it should technically maintain that same shimming for quite a long period of time. But it's still good practice to always double check the diff shimming when you're prepping your cars, cleaning them, whatever, getting them ready for a race weekend. Make sure you're double checking the shimming of the diffs, because the diff gears are obviously not a cheap part, and having something that could have been prevented by just taking the extra time to double check that is definitely the way to go on that, in my opinion. So we're going to do the exact same thing to the front diff. It's literally the exact same process. So I'm going to start the shimming of it the same way I shim the rear. and see kind of where I end up. So on the rear I had 2 shims on each side of the diff. So I'm going to try 2 shims on each side of the diff on this one and see if it gives me the same results. And I would say that it definitely did. There's 4 shims. There's absolutely no side-to-side movement. I hold this pinion, and I just get that same click in between the teeth. So that's perfect shimming. So same thing. We'll just get this greased up and get the case bolted on and check and make sure everything's smooth. I go through every tooth and I feel the grease down into the teeth of the gear, so that it's not just squirted out the top, it's actually down in the teeth. And it's just this little extra bit of attention to detail that can really make your overall racing experience just that much better, and make parts last longer, overall making reliability of everything better and more cost friendly, not having parts prematurely fail. So getting this shimmed right, using good high quality grease, it's all going to help with the wear and tear on these gears. So in all reality, the diff gears should last the entire life of the car. I know my car from last year, I ran the same diff gears the entire year, and they still could keep going. If I was just to go and freshen the car up with all new parts everywhere else, I could keep running those gears. They still look perfectly good. So shimming and high quality grease is the most important thing when it comes to these diff gears. So I got it greased up. We'll go ahead and pop this cover on. And it goes on right nice and easy, and then nothing left to do but screw down. It's probably a good idea to probably not use a cordless screwdriver in those top 2, but I do, and I just be careful. If you was to ever strip those threads out, you would definitely want to replace your gearbox, because with these quick change gearboxes, those 2 screws is the only thing keeping the pressure on the bearings and the diff, holding the diff in its place so that it can't move around in there. If they was stripped out and not holding that correct pressure to it, then the diff would be able to loosen up and pull away from the pinion a little bit, causing potential gears stripped and all that jazz. So I wasn't thinking about this till just now, but there will be one more little tip in this video, since I'm bolting it on, would be the front bumper. for the sway bar carrier. This is purely preference, but I Dremel this bumper out a little bit right here to, if you can see it undremeled, it covers up these lower sway bar screws. So whenever you wanted to make a sway bar change at the track, if without this dremeled, you have to pull the front bumper off. So I take and Dremel this down a little bit more so that those screws can be accessible with the bumper still attached to the car. So like I said, it's complete preference, but sometimes just these little attention to detail things can make your life a lot easier down the road. So nothing fancy, basically just Dremel down until it looks like those screws are going to be able to be reached, and then it's good to go. Obviously, I try to make it look as if it was done this way at the factory as best I possibly can. Alright, so that's what it looks like modified. It's just basically the exact same shape. This part here in the center is just lowered. So you put it on the car, and you can see the lower screws right there. Whereas before they were completely covered up. Yeah, so I can clearly get to those now. So I'll go ahead and bolt this bumper on. Okay, and then you want to, like same on the rear, go ahead and check and make sure that that's the gears are still nice and smooth and they didn't change, get too tight or get really crunchy. Because like I said, when you put the cover on, you bolt everything down tight. The mesh that you felt whenever you had it not on there, that mesh will tighten up a small bit when you bolt the cover down. So that's why you want to leave a little bit of that back and forth backlash in the gears. Maybe leave a tiny bit more than you would like your gears to actually have. And then when you bolt the case down to it, it's going to tighten it up that remaining of the way, and you'll get the mesh that you're actually looking for. This feels good. It feels smooth. So we are all good there. And hopefully this video can be helpful to guys that's still trying to learn and still trying to understand how diff shimming works, and hopefully it can save a guy $1 or $2 maybe down the road with not wearing out the gears and making them last longer. So thanks for watching, and tune back in for the next video of the build series.